Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is April 22nd, 2024, and Joan Laporta has slammed La Liga for the refereeing during El Clasico match, asking for a possible redo of El Clasico match. Also, Xavi Hernandez has reportedly is considering changing his mind and staying at Barcelona. And finally, we will talk about the news that I forgot to mention during yesterday's video, which is that Barcelona are tracking Luis Diaz. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and this is the Barca News live podcast where we get to discuss Barcelona news, but I also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments out loud, answering any questions, and getting that discussion going. For those of you who will be watching the podcast once it ends, I will be leaving timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion. Now, I haven't said all of that. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. All this helps the channel continue to grow. Also, if you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise like this shirt, which says Culé, it's one of my favorite shirts, make sure you hit the kit bag, especially for people who live in the US and don't have shipping from the Barcelona store. Make sure you hit the kit bag. The link is in the description. If you click on it, you do get access to some pretty cool discounts and offers. And finally, if you are feeling lucky, you want to place a sports bet, not just on Barcelona, but on any sporting event around the world, make sure you head to Bet Us. You also get a special offer if you use my link. Now, let's dig right into the news because it's no secret that the refereeing in the El Clasico match was absolutely horrendous with that questionable penalty kick that was awarded to Lucas Vázquez when it was a clear dive. There was also Lamine Yamal's goal, which was not counted because according to the VAR, it did not cross the line. But now new images have surfaced from people in the stadium who filmed the goal, and it looks like the ball did cross the line, but nonetheless, a disastrous refereeing by Cesar Sotogrande. And as a result, Joan Laporta has released a scathing video slamming La Liga and the committee of referees and just Spanish refereeing in general. Now, this is what the Barcelona president had to say. I'll make this bigger and I will take off my logo. But he says, I inform you that we at FC Barcelona will immediately ask the technical jury and the Spanish Football Federation to provide us with all the images and audio recordings produced during the goal. With this statement, I not only want to express Barcelona's dissatisfaction with the mismanagement of VAR that happened yesterday, but also I want to emphasize that even though it is a tool that has been with us for some time, it still causes confusion in contradictory standards dependent on the matches and teams. I would like to stress that although we will focus on the Lamine Yamal goal, we also disagree with various actions during the course of the match, which, although they could have been consulted in the VAR, were incomprehensibly ignored by the referee. We will analyze the whole match against Real Madrid. We'll put in place any possibility to reverse the situation, including any judicial actions that may be necessary. We will go further. We do not rule out anything. If it is confirmed that there was a refereeing mistake in Lamine Yamal's goal yesterday, I don't rule out asking for El Clasico to be replayed. I want all the images and audios recordings. So Joan Laporta saying that, well, first of all, complaining about the VAR and then saying that he wants access to all the images and videos of the goal, specifically Lamine Yamal's goal. And once it's reviewed, if he sees that there's a clear mistake, he will resort to all kinds of actions, including asking for El Clasico to be replayed. Now, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. First of all, I think I do agree with Joan Laporta as far as the VAR. It is not being used correctly in La Liga. VAR was supposed to solve problems, and instead it's created more problems than it has solved. It has created a lot of discrepancies on when the referee goes to VAR, when he doesn't, etc. So there's definitely fundamental problem here in La Liga that La Liga do have to address. There has to be unanimity on where VAR, on when VAR is applied and when not. And I think this is something that all clubs should come forward and speak out about and ask that La Liga, the CTA, the Royal Spanish Football Federation address this problem, because there's obvious confusion amongst the referees where the referees do not know when to go to the VAR and when not. So there's obviously a clear problem here that Joan Laporta points out, which I do agree with. This is something that has to be solved. But unfortunately, clubs only complain about this problem when it affects them. They don't care if it affects their opponent and they end up winning at the cost of it. They don't care when it affects other teams, which is unfortunate, because we should all care when the VAR makes a mistake, whether it's against us, in favor of our opponent, in favor of other clubs, because at the end of the day, we should all safeguard the fairness of the sport, regardless who is benefit from this fairness, including us. Even when we benefit from the VAR, we should be the first ones to come out and say the VAR needs to be looked at, because we should all be concerned with the fairness of the VAR, not only when it affects us. The second point I want to make is that this is getting out of hand. And I'm not talking about the refereeing. I'm talking about Joan Laporta. His constant complaining about refereeing, his statements, his videos, his tweets, the same with Xavi Hernandez, his constant blame of the refereeing is getting out of hand. It's getting to the point where we no longer know how to lose. We're getting to the point where we no longer know how to do self-reflection and look on why we lost and try to figure out what the problem is and try to fix it. And instead, we are looking for external excuses. Because yes, the refereeing was horrendous. Yes, it did have an impact on the match. But the referee was not responsible for Joao Cancelo allowing 3 goals. Refereeing was not responsible for Ronald Araujo getting himself expelled against PSG. The refereeing was not responsible for Barcelona not having any quick transitions. The refereeing was not responsible for Barcelona not knowing how to maintain possession of the ball. The refereeing is not responsible of Barcelona not knowing how to manage results. The refereeing is not responsible for any of these things, any of these glaring, huge problems that the team has, that instead of talking about these problems, that instead of trying to find a way to fix these problems, we want to ignore them, bury them, sweep them under the rug, and instead just focus on the refereeing. And as long as we continue to do that, our team is never going to improve. Because yesterday in a Clasico match, we did not lose La Liga. La Liga was lost when we drew against Athletic Club de Bilbao. It was lost when we drew against Granada, when we drew against Valencia, when we drew against Rayo Vallecano, when we drew against Granada the first leg, when we drew against Mallorca, when we drew against Getafe, when we lost against Villarreal, when we lost against Girona. That's when La Liga was lost. And if you add all those points dropped, that's a total of 20 points. Real Madrid are ahead of us by 11. Had we done our job against these much inferior teams, maybe with the exception of Girona and Athletic Club de Bilbao, which are not that much inferior, but had we done our job against these inferior teams, we could still be ahead, 9 points ahead of Real Madrid, despite both losses in El Clasico. So no, the refereeing is not responsible for where we are on the table. The refereeing is not responsible for our horrible season that will end trophyless. The only ones responsible here are the players, are Xavi Hernandez, and now Joan Laporta, who is also joining the same discourse as Xavi and the players of just blaming it on the referee, blame it on the grass, blame it on the sun, blame it on everything else except on themselves. And this is a big, huge problem, because as long as we keep finding excuses, as long as we keep trying to put the blame somewhere else, our team is not going to improve. And the fact that Joan Laporta is joining this is very concerning, because now we have a problem all the way from the top to the bottom of just a group of people that simply do not know how to take responsibility for their own actions, where the players cannot take responsibility and say, you know what, we're not playing as good as we should be, where Xavi's not taking responsibility saying, you know what, I've been incapable of building a winning project, and of Joan Laporta incapable of assuming responsibility and saying, you know what, I've also messed up with some very questionable signings like Ferran, like Rafinha, like Joao Felix, like Joao Cancelo, etc., etc. And as long as these keeps going on, we have a huge problem, and we're never going to be competitive because we rather look for blame somewhere else because it's much easier rather than look inward, analyze what the problem is, and try to solve it. And this is absolutely unacceptable for a club as big as Barcelona. And I'm starting to get fed up. Anyways, let's get back. Or actually, before we head to the chat section, the CTA are now saying that they're not going to reveal those videos or footage. They're not going to give it to Joan Laporta. So what was the whole point of this video? I don't know, because according to him, only once Barcelona receive that footage and the videos and they review it, then they would consider asking for a replay. But the CTA has said they're not going to do it. There's no rule that requires them to do it. I'm pretty sure Joan Laporta already knows that, which makes me think that the only reason he made this video is just to deflect and to distract us away from the fact that our project is a total mess and that, yes, he is partly responsible for it, but let's blame everyone else except ourselves. Anyways, let's do the chat section and then we will talk about Xavi's supposed decision where he might stay. Oh, someone just say you miss Romeo. Yes, thank you. Romeo, another example of a bad signing. Marcos Alonso. The list goes on. The referees are not responsible for that. The referees are not responsible for Laporta signing someone like Ferran for 55 million, for someone like Rafinha for 60 million, for wanting to now insist on a signing of the Joaos, which would cost us a total of 100 million, for Romeo, Marcos Alonso, etc., etc., etc. The list goes on, but, you know, let's continue finding blame somewhere else. Fireboy says, Mo, gonna go ham on this one. You are correct, my friend. You know me too well. Maurana Kure says, I will absolutely lose my collective marbles if Xavi does a U-turn and decides to stay on the manager. At this point, I've lost my collective marble because right now it's an absolute shit show, excuse my language, with everything that's going on, from the signings to the players' performance and mistakes to Xavi's mismanagement of the team and now to Joan Laporta's mismanagement of the club. The sporting project is an absolute mess. Now, Laporta's doing an amazing job as far as the club's finances, you know, getting the club back on track, you know, get everything that he's done, the sponsorships, the economic levers, the stadium renovation, restructuring the debt of the club. He's doing an amazing job as far as the finances. But when it comes to the sporting project right now, it's an absolute shit show, and it's not looking good. It is not looking good. Simeon says, been waiting all day for this. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, my friend. Let's see. HS. Is it Hassan or is it just HASN? Says, other than Flick, Barca should also consider Thomas Tuchel, Unai Emery, Ralf Rangnick, at least better than Rafa Marquez. Tuchel was considered briefly, but he's not really on the priority list because he's kind of had a lot of stumbles lately. You know, he was a great coach at Dortmund. He won a Champions League, but lately he's been kind of, he's had a lot more misses. And I don't mean misses as in mistresses. I mean as in missing something. Has a lot more misses lately, so he's not really. Ragnick was also considered because he kind of is the father of the German school of thought, but you know, he also lacks kind of that top level experience. And Unai, the same thing. Unai, you know, he was also considered, but his lack of experience is just does not play in his favor. Adedeji says, we don't need Xavi. He doesn't have the experience Laporta think he does have. I think Flick is the best option for now. If Xavi stays, I struggle to watch match because there's nothing to watch with Xavi. Agree with you, my friend. And David Vargas says, love your videos. I think Xavi should go and Flick take over to make a whole team reboot. Agree. And one more, and then we'll talk about Xavi. Pacoranteng says, we have to cancel Joao Cancelo and Joao Felix loan deal. Well, we don't have to cancel it. We just got to wait until the end of the season for the loans to expire and bid him adieu. Say thank you for coming. Please don't come back. All right, now let's talk about the news, which I'm sure you guys are waiting for, which is that Xavi is reportedly considering staying at the club. However, he does have some conditions for his continuity. Now, I told you last week that, I think it was last week, that Barcelona had scheduled a key meeting with Xavi Hernandez that they wanted to have after the PSG and the Clasico matches in order to discuss the future of the coach. It seems that this meeting will take place on Wednesday. where the final decisions are going to be made, whether Xavi will leave at the end of the season or whether he will be staying. Now, I honestly don't even know why we're having this meeting. Last I remember, Xavi quit. He said he was leaving. So why are we still insisting on this meeting? I don't understand. Imagine if you were at work, you're fed up with your job, and you said, you know what, boss, I need to talk to you. I'm quitting. I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice. Then your boss is like, all right, let's meet about it. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm quitting. He's like, yeah, let's meet about it. Let's talk about it. No, I'm quitting. Anyways, but the meeting will be held on Wednesday where the future of Xavi Hernandez will be discussed. And they are reporting that Xavi is considering staying at the club. However, he does have 2 major conditions that he needs met. Otherwise, he will leave. The first condition is that Xavi Hernandez wants the club to provide him with a competitive team. He wants 3 signings, and he wants all 3 signings to be his choice, no questions asked. First of all, the pivot, he wants to just pick a name and the club go out there and sign him. No matter who he is, no matter what the price is, you sign him, period. He wants a fullback because he considers that Cancelo is not up to par. Same thing. He wants to pick the fullback, have Barcelona go out there, sign him. Doesn't matter who he is or what his cost is. And finally, he wants a winger. Same thing. He picks a name. The club goes out there and pays for it. The second request of Xavi Hernandez is that he wants full protection from the club for himself and for the players. And if these 2 things are met, then Xavi Hernandez would consider staying. Now, there's a little bit of diversions about who is asking for the meeting. Some sources from the club are saying that it's Xavi Hernandez who requested the Wednesday meeting because he has changed his mind and he's considering staying. Xavi's entourage or Xavi's camp are saying that it's the club who asked for this meeting because they want to beg him to stay. So at this point, it's more of an ego battle about who wants who to stay. You know, oh, it's Xavi who wants to stay. No, it's Laporta wants me to stay, which is even a further indication of what a shit show this whole thing has become. Because if you ask 5 people at the club what's going on, they're going to give you 10 different answers, and nobody seems to know what's going on. But let's talk about Xavi Hernandez's conditions that he wants. First of all, that he wants a signing of his choice and for the club to sign him. That right there, that's not an indication of Xavi's inability to build a project from the ground up, then I don't know what it is. Because at this point, what Xavi wants is Barcelona to sign him 11 stars and another 11-star substitutes. That's what he wants. Because that, again, clear indication that Xavi does not know how to build a project from the ground up. He does not know how to build a project with whatever players he's been given, which, by the way, as much as some people want to pretend that we have some bunch of bums, we don't. We have Ter Stegen, we have Koundé, Christensen, Araujo, Pau Cubarsí, Alejandro Valde, Pedri, Gavi, Frenkie, Gundogan, Lewandowski, Lamine. We have some pretty excellent players, some of the best players in the world in their positions. So to pretend that he somehow has a bunch of bombs, he doesn't. He has some of the best players in the world. He's been incapable of doing anything with these best players of the world, and he wants even more. Because why? Because Xavi is incapable of building a project from the ground up. Now, his second condition, he wants full protection from the club for him and for his player. What does that mean? He doesn't want accountability. He wants to just try his things out. If the team fails, he wants the club to continue applauding him. Bravo. It's not you. It's the referees. It's the sun. It's the grass. It's the wind. It's whatever. So pretty much what Xavi is asking, more of the same crap. Because as far as I know, Laporta has always defended him. Laporta still insisted on keeping him, despite Xavi ending or will be ending the season trophyless. Are these the conditions of a serious coach? I don't know. Because if a coach should be judged based on his performance. Not, I just want full protection and you got to protect me no matter what. But anyways. Now we're going to have to see what happens on Wednesday. Stay tuned to the channel because, of course, I'll be here covering the results of the meeting. We'll see what happens. For now, it's reported that Laporta is not convinced with Rafa Marquez, even though there's a lot of people in the club who are pushing for it. They want Rafa Marquez to be the next coach because of his experience with Barca Athletic and his knowledge of the youngsters. I've said it before. I don't think Rafa is ready. It's going to be the same thing. So Laporta is also not convinced. But it seems like Laporta does not have a clear idea on who should be the next coach, and that's why he prefers for Xavi to stay. Now, if Xavi doesn't stay, Laporta would pick Flick because we've talked about it a million times, the viability or the feasibility of Flick coming. He's the easiest option. That's who he would pick. But he would prefer for Xavi to stay because he doesn't have a really clear idea on who should be coach. And also, he is not fully sold on Rafa Marquez, which, again, further adds to the whole shit show because we should not be at the end of April. The season is only 6 matches left. The summer transfer market is right around the corner. The preseason is right around the corner. It'll be here sooner than we know. And yet, our club has no idea on what they should be doing. They're holding a meeting to see what a guy who has already told them what he wants to do, to see what he wants to do. But anyways. All right, let's do the chat section, and then we will talk about the bit of news that I forgot yesterday. I can't believe I forgot it. It was in the actual title, and it was in the thumbnail, and I talked about it in the intro, and I forgot to mention Luis Diaz. But anyways, I'm going to talk about Luis Diaz. Don't worry, guys. I haven't forgotten. Simeon says, watching back the foul for the penalty, it was never a foul in the first place. Vasquez puts his foot on Kovarski's leg and fell over. It was a disgrace. Big time, yeah. It's clear he sees Kovarski's leg and it drags his own leg, creates the contact, and just dives. Now, I understand that the referee maybe did not see it, in live time. When I first saw it, I thought it was a penalty. I see Kovarski's leg extended. I see Luka Vasquez drop. I'm like, oh, crap, it's a penalty. Once I saw the replay, I was like, okay, yeah, that's obviously a dive. But then what the hell is a VAR for? The VAR is exactly for that. So the referee can see the replay and be like, oh, okay, crap, I made a mistake. But the VAR didn't even call him, which begs the question, why the hell do we even have VAR? I think there are 30 cameras at the Bernabeu. Why do we spend millions of euros installing those cameras, installing the equipment that controls them, training people on how to control them, training referees on how to use the VAR if we're not even going to use it? We could have saved that money and used it on something else. Let's see. Charcuté says, Mo, 3 players would solve Barca problem. Left back, defensive midfielder, and left wing. We don't need a left back. We have Alejandro Valde. And as far as, a substitute, we have Alex Baye. Junior says, Mo, the ref actually has been responsible for the outcome of our games. How can we have possession when every ref lets the atmosphere get out of hand against us, not calling fouls on us? That only happened against Getafe. But if you want to blame the entire season on the refs, what can I tell you? JK says, hello, Mo from Sydney. All right, all the way from Sydney. Says, thanks for the good work you are doing by bringing us the reliable news about our beloved club Barca. I have been saying all this long that Xavi should go. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for your message. And I agree with you 100%. Enrique says, I don't think signing Felix is a good idea. Yeah, he can offer moments of brilliance, but we need someone that can offer quality performance consistently. 100% agree with you. The 2 flashy things that Joao Felix does per match is just not enough. These are, serious matches. These are not exhibition futsal matches where you got to show your dribbling abilities. And we need a serious player that's consistent every match and not just shows up against Atletico Madrid. 2 matches out of 38. All right, let's see. Blaurana Kule says, I see the young and Destain on the squad. Books another season simply because nobody buys damaged goods. That being said, I hope they both have a speedy and successful recovery. Actually, the news about Dest is that PSV Eindhoven have not changed their plans. They're still going to activate his option to buy because they still want him. All right, Partha says, sign the Nike deal, make our FFP to 1-1, sell FDJ plus 30 million player, or sell the VIP lounges and sign Nico and Subi. The VIP lounges are going to be sold regardless. It's a 10-year lease. The club is expected to make 100 million this summer plus 60 million euros next summer. So summer 2025. for the 10-year leases. And only a portion of the VIP boxes will be leased for 10 years. The rest of the boxes will be on a match-to-match basis. If you want to reserve it for one match, you can go ahead. The other ones are 10-year leases, and those are usually for companies, because a lot of companies, will lease boxes for their events, to take their investors there, etc. Take hookers, cocaine, you name it. Yamidora says, hey, Mo, could you make me understand Laporta Xavi's obsession? Why can't Barca just move on? I think because, and I can't say for sure because I'm not Laporta, I can't speak for him, but I think it has to do with with everything that Xavi gave us. That also explains why so many fans keep insisting on him, right? Xavi was one of our greatest players ever. He gave us 2 trebles. One of them was a sextuple. And, we all love him as a player. So does Laporta. I imagine he also loves him as a person, because as much as I complain about Xavi, the manager, and his press conferences and his pathetic excuses, Xavi, at least from what I've seen in his interviews, from I've seen how he interacts with players, with the fans, it looks like a pretty wholesome guy. Like, he looks like a pretty good, amazing guy, personally speaking. Of course, I don't know. I've never met him. So I think he just has that attachment. You have this amazing guy, great guy, good person, who's also a legend, who's won everything there is to win, was there when Laporta was president the first time around. So you could see how he could build a connection. And maybe that's why the fans also don't want to see Xavi to go. Imagine if Messi was in Xavi's shoes, right? Imagine if Messi was the coach and the team was an absolute disaster. It'd be very hard to say, yo, Messi sucks, right? Because he gave us so much. The same with Xavi. He gave us so much. So that's my guess. Anyways, let's get back to the news before I get distracted, because we do have to talk about Luis Diaz, since I did forget about Luis Diaz yesterday. By the way, it hit me as I was concluding the video. I was like, all right, thank you guys for watching. I'm like, shit, Luis Diaz. And I was doing it live, so it's not like I could, film and then edit and then put it back in. But anyways, Luis Diaz. Barcelona are reportedly tracking the Colombian at Liverpool to see what's going to happen with his future. Now, we know that Barcelona are looking for someone for the left wing. We need someone who can, pose a threat like how Lamine Yamal does on the right, someone who can dribble past defenders, someone who can cut through defenders, can make it all the way to the back line or cut through to the box. And Luis Diaz has always been someone that Barcelona have been interested in. They tried to sign him in the past back when he was it Benfica? Yeah, Benfica. But unfortunately, the club situation did not allow for this to happen, and he ended up going to Liverpool, who had the money on hand. Now you ask, why is Barcelona tracking Luis Diaz? Well, we all know that Jurgen Klopp has decided to step down at the end of the season. And as such, Liverpool, for the first time in 9 years, are going to have a new coach. And as expected, new coach is most likely going to be making changes to the squad. And Barcelona want to keep a close eye to see what this new coach will do. Whether he will keep Luis Diaz, which is most likely that's what's going to happen. Why wouldn't you want to have Luis Diaz on your team? Or whether the new coach says, you know what, Luis Diaz doesn't really fit what I'm trying to do, and let's sell him, right? If that happens, then Barcelona would try to bid for him and try to sign him, bring him to Barcelona. Of course, Luis Diaz's father has said on multiple occasions that it's Luis Diaz's dream to come to Barcelona. So as far as the player wanted to come to the club, that wouldn't be a problem. But of course, the problem is Liverpool going to want to sell? And that can only happen if a new coach comes and decides, I don't want Luis Diaz, let's get rid of him. So that's why Barcelona are tracking the situation. They want to see what the new coach does. Of course, most likely Luis Diaz will stay at Liverpool. I don't see a new coach coming and getting rid of him. Barcelona obviously think the same thing. But just in case, they want to keep an eye on the situation, see what happens in case, in the smallest chances, that Liverpool say, okay, we don't want Luis Diaz anymore because our new coach doesn't want him. Then Barcelona would try to bid for him. Otherwise, Barcelona are not going to try to sign him, because otherwise, if Liverpool want to keep him, Barcelona asks, they're going to quote him something ridiculous like 150 million euros or something crazy like that. Anyways, let's get back to the chat section. And then I do have 2 bits of news lumped together. One of them is Frenkie de Jong's injury update. Felipe says, it's crazy, Mo. Real Madrid have their president for the past 20 years. I feel angry seeing Real Madrid being well, which in reality, it should be us. I think Real Madrid are more very united. I mean, they also have a lot more resources. You have to understand, Real Madrid has the backing of everything. The backing of La Liga, the Royal Spanish Football Federation, the CTA, the government. What a lot of people fail to understand is the rivalry between Madrid and Barcelona, Real Madrid and FC Barcelona. It extends beyond football. It extends into politics. And it always has since the inception of both clubs. Because Real Madrid sits in the center of power in Spain, which is the city of Madrid. And it's the struggle between the center of power versus Catalonia and its independence movement and its, desire to have their own identity, to be separate from the control and grasp of the central power or the centralized power that exists in Real Madrid. Catalonia, they even speak a different language. They speak Catalan. So that's why Real Madrid, they've always had the backing of all the powers involved, both on the football and the political level, right? So, Barcelona is the underdog, if you may. So, of course, Real Madrid, with all the backing that it gets, it's always going to be ahead, or at least structurally speaking or institutionally speaking, is going to be ahead. Not necessarily sporting-wise, because we saw that we can compete against them. We saw it against, during the Pep Guardiola years, during the Luis Enrique years, the Tito Villanova years, etc. Coranteng says, Xavi's not the best coach for now. We have to go for Hansi Flick. We don't need a coach that one win they say stay, and then when he loses, he wants to leave. Agree with you, my friend. That's another thing. No matter what you think of Xavi, whether you think he's doing an amazing job or he's doing a horrible job, let's not forget he did quit. And we can't have that. We need a coach that is here to stay through thick and thin, a coach that when he faces difficulty, rises above it and finds a way to deal with it, not a coach that caves and just quits and just for weeks and weeks talks about how horrible the job is of being a Barcelona coach and how it's hell to coach Barcelona and how it's too much pressure and too much demands and blah, blah, blah. That's the job. If you can't handle the demands, if you can't handle the pressure, can handle the bad times, then you're not cut out to be a Barcelona coach, right? And that's why you get paid the big bucks. Xavi makes 8 million euros a year. There's a reason for that, right? And, you can't be the CEO of Apple complaining about, oh, my God, it's so much work to run Apple. Of course it is. It's Apple. It's one of the biggest companies in the world. Same with FC Barcelona. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world. Of course, it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of demand, a lot of pressure. If you can handle it, that's okay. Not everybody can. I'm pretty sure I couldn't handle even half the pressure. But it is what it is. You got to accept your limitations and let someone else who doesn't have those limitations do the job. If Adaya says, why don't we sign players before they get expensive? We followed Diaz till he moved to Liverpool. We followed Rodrigo till he signed for Madrid. We just keep following and no product. Well, actually, we knew about Rodrigo way before he moved to Real Madrid. But they beat us. They had more money. As far as signing players before they get expensive, we've done plenty of that this under Deco. Whether it's Mika Fai or Noah Darvic, etc. We've done that. All right, let's do 2 more bits of news and then we'll do more comments. But let's talk about Frenkie de Jong because the club have confirmed that he has suffered a ankle injury, an ankle sprain, which was the result of course, that tackle against Valverde where they both hit the ball. And unfortunately, Frenkie de Jong's ankle was just, if you see the images, it's pretty horrendous, the way it wobbles. But the club have confirmed that Frenkie de Jong has suffered an ankle sprain. Of course, they haven't said how long he'll be out. It's been the same statement as always. His recovery will dictate his return. But sources are saying that he will be out for 6 weeks, which means that Frenkie de Jong's season is officially over. He is expected to return for international duty. I think his first match with the Netherlands is some June 16, June 15, something like that. I think they play a friendly match against Canada, if I'm not mistaken. I could be making all this up because I don't really care about what the Netherlands do. But he is expected to go back to international duty in June. So he's only out 6 weeks, but that does mean that his season is over, which is very unfortunate for the player because this is the second ankle sprain that he suffers, and it has nothing to do with his fitness or he's not training hard. It's both times have been as a result of fouls. Well, Valverde wasn't really a foul. It was just a challenge that didn't go his way. Very unfortunate. That's very, very unlucky because to, get injured like that back to back, same part of the body as a result of just play, not exhaustion or fatigue or lack of stamina is very unfortunate. But the silver lining is that it is only a sprain, because I saw some images where his ankle was completely twisted like 90 degrees and it looked really nasty. It looked like it could be broken. It looked like he could have had torn ligaments. And if that's the case, that would have required surgery, rehab, etc. And he could have been out for 6 months or 8 months, right? But instead, it's a sprain. Yes, it sucks. He will miss the rest of the season, but at least it's just a sprain and it's only 6 weeks, because it could have been much, much worse just from looking at the pictures. So that's good news. The other bit of news is this clown, Vinicius Jr., who has been seen on Twitter making fun of Fermin Lopez. It is in Spanish, but some clown, some Real Madrid clown, posted this picture of Fermin Lopez celebrating the goal with his arms extended. And in Spanish, it says he thinks he is Jude Bellingham. And of course, right next to the picture is Jude Bellingham's picture with his arms extended, because apparently the only person who is allowed to celebrate goals with his arms extended is Jude Bellingham. But anyways, this clown says that Fermin thinks it's Jude Bellingham, and Vinicius Jr. replied with a laughing emoji, which of course we all knew by now that Vinicius is a clown. He's always running his mouth. He's always talking shit to other players, coaches, fans. Of course, La Liga have given him a carte blanche to do whatever he wants. And then people want to say, oh, you just hate Vinicius because he's black. Someone said that on the chat section a few weeks ago. I said, no, we don't hate him because he's black. We hate him because he's a clown. And this is a perfect example of Vinicius Jr. being a clown, laughing at a colleague of his, because that's the kind of person he is. But let's all pretend he is Junior Luther King, and that he is, or Vinicius Luther King, and that he is solving racism for everybody, because he can run his mouth as much as he wants. But as soon as someone says anything to him, or if a referee decides to expel him or give him a yellow card, all of a sudden, it's because he's black. Anyways, let's get back to the chat section. That is all the news for this podcast. So let's do a few more comments and then we will end this. And my man Klaus says, lots of Aussies in the UK. Good people, good friends. I like Australians. I love Australians. Australians are amazing people. All of you in the chat section are amazing people. And AA says, question, are you half Arab and half Latino? Because you pronounce Arabic words perfectly. Yes, I am, my friend. You have guessed it correctly. My father is Arab and my mother is Latina. All right, let's see. Hassan says, Deco and Laporta always cry that they have no money, but still the useless signings. Agree with you. To be fair, though, Deco has not made useless signings. Deco has actually made some pretty good low-cost signings. It's Laporta who's been in charge when useless signings have been made. For example, Rafinha, 60 million euros. Deco was not the sporting director. Deco was the representative. It was Matteo Alemany was the sporting director, and that was a request from Xavi. Which still, just because your coach requests a useless player, you shouldn't just greenlight it because he wants it, right? Ferran Torres, that was also done when Alemany was a sporting director, not Deco. I guess Uriel Romeo would be the only one that was under Deco that has failed. But he only cost 3 million euros, right? So no harm, no foul. Sell him next summer or let him go for free, whatever. We're not out 60 million. The Joaos obviously haven't worked out, but they were both loans. So, we haven't wasted money. So to be fair to Deco, he hasn't made expensive, useless signings. They've all come under Alemany and Laporta. Marcos Alonso, he too was under Alemany and Laporta. The only one, like I said, it's Romeo. On the other hand, Deco has made some pretty great signings, like, the loan of Mbake, Mamadou Mbake, the loan of, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name. Pau Victor, the signing of Noah Darvic, the signing of Mika Fai. The two kids that they're about to sign away from Real Madrid, the Real Madrid Academy graduates. I forgot their names. What else? Peter Roque has been expensive, but we'll see that. The jury's still out on that. We don't know. So I don't think Deco has done a terrible job. I think he's been pretty good as far as signing youngsters. All right, and we do have a donation. Baby Scumbag, who's always donating to the channel. Thank you, my friend. He says, what's up, Mo? Thoughts on Xavi requesting demands to stay, and we have Flick, who is waiting in the back of the call. Why can't the board / Laporta move on? I did speak about it earlier. I don't know if you just joined. So if you want to just go back and watch it, I just don't want to be repetitive and get the people bored. But in a nutshell, it's bullshit. And Dem4A says Xavi should stop being biased, like playing old grandpa Lewy and didn't give Vitor Roque playing time. He also should start improving instead of complaining like a child in press conferences. I do agree with you. I don't know if Vitor Roque was the right call for a Clasico, just given the pressure, etc. But he did take him out though, I guess, in Clasico. But who knows? Maybe Vitor Roque would have worked out. I don't know. I would rather Vitor Roque spend the rest of the season adapting and not put that unnecessary pressure on him, and then have him start fresh next season. But I do agree. Xavi should be more stern when it comes to Lewy and just take him out when he's not performing. Which, again, to be fair, to give credit when credit is due, Xavi did do that again in the Clasico. I think he should have done it a lot more times in the past, which he didn't. But he did do it against. In El Clasico. Let's see. B says, Mo, where is all the money from Champions League and all the deals still not 1-to-1 rule? Where is that money? But we say sign Silva, Diaz, Nico. So the money from the Champions League was already factored in the budget. So that's not like extra money that the club are getting. The club had already budgeted to make it to the quarterfinals at the beginning of the season. So it's not like, oh, we just got all this extra money. We did it. Had we made it to the semifinals, that would have been extra money that the club wouldn't have budgeted for. As far as the 1-to-1, we're short 100 million because Libero did not pay us, right? They didn't pay us the 40 million that they owed us by December. They're supposed to pay us 60 million in the summer. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So we're short 100 million. Plus, our wage bill is still above our wage limit. Our wage limit was lowered to 200 million. Our wage bill is 400 something, near 500 million. So as long as your wage bill is above your wage limit, La Liga will always restrict your signing. They do it kind of a way to protect the clubs from overspending and bankrupting themselves, which begs the question, where the hell was La Liga when Bartomeu was president and was spending the club's money left and right, and where our wage bill reached 900 million euros? That is absolute insanity. Teach Our Life says, give Xavi a pivot, a fast-paced winger, and a striker like Dovbik. How we dominate position against the Real by keeping the ball away from them so that they can't attack. Philosophy. I mean, you can give them all those players. I'm not going to see much change, to be honest, because when you have 11 players on the field with no idea what to do, with any system of how to move the ball, of any automated passes, of any ideas how to attack, how to use the interior corridors, how to make the field wider it doesn't matter who's on the field. I mean, we might improve a little bit. Maybe we'll score a few more goals here and there, but we're not going to be able to compete at the highest level until we have a coach that can implement a system of play where the players within that system know exactly what to do. Because right now you just have 11 players improvising. They're just on the field trying to figure out what the hell to do. And that's why the movement of the ball is so slow, because they have to think. They have to look up. They have to, where's my teammates? I don't know. So that's why. And as long as that continues to happen, it doesn't matter who's on the field. If Mitchell can build a squad using 60 million euros, competitive squad, and go all the way from relegation to second place, now they're third, I think we should be able to do it with a budget of 900 million without having to sign 22 stars. Anyways, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. The podcast is over. My favorite part of the week. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for tuning in, for your comments, your likes, your subscriptions, just for being amazing, period. Have a good night or good morning wherever you are in the world. And as always, Visca Barça.